Welcome to the Evening Review. My name is Sokhane, and joining us virtually is Landless Peoples Movement spokesperson Eneas Emvula, who will be speaking on the recent nomination of their party leader Bernardus Swartboi's nomination to the Pan-African Parliamentary Forum. Before we go into that interview, a short break. Welcome to the Evening Review, and thank you for joining us. I want to know from your end, why should local parliamentarians have a presence on the Pan-African Parliamentary Forum?
Yes, good evening, and thank you for having us on your show this evening. May we first of all perhaps wish the African child strength and good health, since the day today is dedicated to the African child. And coming to your question, look, being a member of parliament in any country, of course, which I'm not, is that you are a lawmaker in the first place. Recently, laws that you influence when it comes to the construct of such laws shouldn't be out of touch with the reality at the global scale. So the members of parliament of the Namibian parliament per se have actually been availed with 3 positions on the Pan-African Parliament, or is also known as the African Parliament. And these seats are to be taken up for a period of 5 years, and are allocated to the 3 biggest parties in the Parliament of Namibia, of which the LPM is. So now, maybe let's talk about or look at the essence of the African Parliament itself. It was created through the Abuja Treaty of 1991, and this treaty obviously is what gave birth to this organ, of which is one of the 11 organs of the African Union. And the organ itself, which is the Pan-African Parliament, has been created to serve as a mutual platforms for lawmakers across the continent to converge and deliberate on matters of mutual benefit and also mutual concern on the African continent. And this organ does not exclude the people of African descent that are in the diaspora, such as in the Americas or in Europe or Asia per se. So it is a platform that is created then to, or rather, you can say under the notion that our forefathers have been calling, which is the unification of the African people. And only by harnessing this notion and transcending it into the reality can the African continent prosper, both when it comes to its human capital, infrastructure development, and health, as well as then on the economic scene. So the Namibian members of parliament obviously deserve a space on the African Parliament, as Namibia being an integral part of the continent itself. Now, in the bigger scheme of things, the continent has been, or rather, has come out of I think it's, if it's not 300 years, in our case it's 100, I think it's 101 years now, or 110, somewhere there, of colonialism. And Africa, for it to be competitive at a global scale, must actually deliberate within itself on matters that would propel the continent to reach such prosperity. But coupled with that is also the administration of justice, as well as fairness in dealing with matters, whether it's in country or within the continent, be it trade, be it then the ancestral land claim and restitution, which is a topical issue these days, or rather in the recent months, where the former colonizers are currently battling to, some of them, such as France, to accept that it has done tremendous harm to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So yes, Namibia definitely, after obtaining independence, also gained track in the international politics. So, I mean, hence the participation on this platform, or being members of this platform.
And then I want to establish from your end participation in platforms such as this. What are the advantages, immediate advantages that trickle back now to Namibia as a country, and then your party being now the third biggest, having the third biggest representation in the National Assembly?
Look, we have motions that get tabled in Parliament, and obviously as part of our contribution towards those motions, or rather, or end bills, we definitely have to extensively consult and limiting our consultations to in country, that's not sufficient enough. We need to expand our and and really reach or rather hammer out laws that are relevant locally, and that are in sync with the world outside. So the immediate benefits is that, or are that, rather, let me put it singular, is that the laws where we pretty much need an input that we draw from the outside world best practices would actually be captured properly, and obviously this would lead to the country, improving its governance. So the Pan-African Parliament is set up there, and then one of its objectives is to actually not only deliberate, but on matters of mutual concern, but also reach decisions or consensus on how political, economic, and social matters should be approached. Again, the foundation is really the whole long-term dream of having an African continent that is, where all 54 countries are in sync with each other when it comes to appropriate governance, and also defending its stance as an African country, or as an African continent, pardon me. And this is really the reality outside there. I mean, you have United States, for example, pushing some of its products, and that was in unison, or by consensus of all the states in America. Now, if you look at the United States of America's position in the global trade, it's actually overwhelming, and China being second, and then the others, or China is a country being second, but the Northern America has always put its interests first, and stood by it. And so in the African context, that has somehow been absent. It could perhaps be because we are divided into two parts, which is actually the English-speaking African countries, as well as then the French-speaking African countries. So within the African Parliament, these two converge, and obviously Namibia has a lot to learn from that convergence, and really draw best practices that would actually propel our local development further than it has been so far.
Okay, thank you for that. I would like to obviously dig deeper into the matter, but before we do that, we'd like to go for a short commercial break. So please do stand by. I'd like to know from your end, with this nomination now, should Mr. Swartbooi, or when Mr. Swartbooi is away from Namibia on continental duty, it is bound to have some bearing on his work as a lawmaker and obviously also as an LPM leader. You know, how do you intend to mitigate his lack, or the lack of his presence back in Namibia when he is doing the work of the Pan-African Parliamentary Forum?
During the times that or our leader sits at the African Parliament, it's actually something that we never felt. I mean, before he has been in and out of the country, of course, on various capacity building missions, as well as other missions that intend to consolidate our position in Namibian politics, as well as on the subcontinent, and the world at large. So we would rather see it as an opportunity, and rather a clarion call for the LPM to really solicit more support on the international level, as well as to ensure that the voice of every Namibian is heard internationally. There are various contemporary issues that have been happening not only in the past months, but obviously for the past, let's say, 28 years. And as you well know, that we haven't actually been silent ever since the day we took up seats across all three levels of government in Namibia. And we will not relent, for that matter, in any coming time. So his presence at the Pan-African Parliament would actually amplify, our work, or the output of our work, and also guide the input into what we do much more significantly than before. As you know, that LPM obviously is a national party, or not a nationalist party, and I mean, besides the small talks around that the is ethnic based, wherever or whatever that means. So we are first of all proud of this development, and it's actually a development that has, or rather, a development that has been quite long overdue, because the Pan-African Parliament seat, where Swartbooi and PDM is, or are at the moment, our seat as LPM has been vacant, and it has been vacant ever since the battle between a competent court of the Caitmans magistrate courthouse and the Judiciary Commission officials that have started their groundless battle. And ever since then, the absence of our two councillors, Councillor Anselin Biekes, as well as Gert Witbooi, has been vacant or have been absent from the National Council, which is the upper house of Parliament. We have actually having been or had back and forth, rather not fights, but differences with the Speaker of the National Assembly, Professor Peter Kachavivi, as well as, unfortunately, the leader of the opposition party, which is actually McHenry Venani, who continuously attempted to block LPM from taking up this vacancy. So, and the consensus that was, or rather the nomination then of Honorable Swartbooi, has not come very easy, or didn't come through very easy, because of these two individual MPs, and it is actually now should be viewed as victory of the LPM again, that finally we managed to reach, or at least secure, a nomination for that seat, and obviously that seat will be taken up with immediate effect. So, and it's a legal record to, I mean, that is now established between the outside world when it comes to lawmaking. When it comes to the lawmaking fraternity of politics, and at the international scale level, as well as then between that and the local, lawmaking representatives of the LPM here in Namibia. So we actually expect much more work at the end of, or at the beginning of this year. We have actually presented our theme, which accompanied, you remember, our submission to the State House in the form of a proposal that was directly to the State President, Dr. Hage Geingob, on how to go about developmental as well as social issues in the country, and how to expedite that, and the resources that are required, of course, also in view of the newly founded fortune of the country, which will be or should be realized in the coming 3 years or so. That's the oil discovery of the Namibian coast. So our theme for the year, building a competent state, I think will speak more volumes. Given that this has now developed.
And then I want to ask, since we are running out of time, as a party collective, what do you hope to achieve from seeing your MP serving on the Parliamentary African Forum?
Well, we actually foresee the parliamentary, or rather that Pan-African Parliament to be more vibrant on both sides. I mean, given that Honorable Malema is on it, I mean, son of the South African soil. And then obviously our own political icon locally, as considered by many. That this is not my I'm not making this up, or it's not my own words. And we also then expect the deliberations through the contributions, of course, through the LPM contributions, to really guide our policy unit as the LPM, as well as to advance our debates within the Namibian Parliament, and then that's both National Council and National Assembly. And one of the most critical issues that we would like to actually rake in input for is, for example, the ancestral land claims and restitution, which hopefully through the debate at the Pan-African Parliament would lead to at least the establishment of a claims court in Namibia, or land claims court in the country, and which is actually an assignment that we have committed since the current ruling party has actually, or dismally, failed to address the land issue in a more amicable manner, and in a manner that considers the emotions that are attached to this land issue, and would also give us an opportunity, hopefully, to convince our partners within the civil society of Namibia to actually come to the desk, to the round table, and then see how we can best address the central government in efficiently implementing all resolutions that were taken at the second land conference. So there are a lot of really hanging fruits, whether it's in the political sphere, trade, as well as the implementation, perhaps, of the Sustainable Development Goals.
Thank you very much for joining us on the Evening Review. It was certainly a pleasure talking to you. And on that note, happy Day of the African Child. Good night.